Okay, and maybe I see on my screen at least the image, the large image that we some small images of you guys appear on the right side, and on the main screen, so to speak, I have the event page. Not sure if that's the same for
So I'll
you.
stop sharing that, and then
Okay.
you should be
Ah,
now at the
okay.
center stage. You're pinned to the
So
main.
this is everyone. Hello, everyone. I hope you can see me and hear me all right. Let me first explain a few things before we get started with the content. I have been in the management and business arena for 20 years as a consultant and author and developing methods. I wrote a few books. This is probably the most well-known, Organized for Complexity. So I'm not a software developer, and I'm not really in the space of software development. I know this is bizarre. How can a man who never wrote proper code, except for his websites in the last decade or century, no, in the last century almost. How do I dare to say something about software development, right? Which is why TOSD, type-oriented software development, of course, I didn't develop it on my own, let's say alone. I also worked with a proper software developer, Sebastian Kunsch. He isn't here today, I think, but if he is, he should give me a shout out. The two of us developed TOS together and applied it in his company, Pratke. But about this session, I should also say I will not use PowerPoint because I think using PowerPoint in a web session is diminishing for everybody, for the speaker and the listeners. It's just not cool, I think. So I will use the most ridiculous technology of all times, paper, during the session. I will not even draw beautifully on it, as you will notice. I do this the ugly way. Uh, I could call it art, abstract art almost. So I will draw things, and write some stuff, but you probably will not be able to read it. But you don't have to because we will talk about this concept. There's also a PDF download. You can download the PDF free of charge, free of registration. There's no reason why you shouldn't download it, so to speak. This is the print version that I'm holding up. So this concept paper has been available for 2 months. TOST is really new. It's really a fresh start into Agile, I dare say. We might discuss what this means. We might not agree on this stuff. I think it's Agile's last hope. But we might disagree on that or discuss it during the session. That's the purpose. I want to discuss a few of the concepts of time-oriented software developments with you. I will also invite you to speak up. In just a few minutes, we can even start with some of you speaking up and sharing what you already know and doubt about time-oriented software development. But because I understand it's highly counterintuitive. If you have been For me, for example, it was very counterintuitive as well. And this, let me start the content part of the session by like this. It's difficult to sum this up for an agile community, of course, but I have been part of the agile movement myself for 15 years or so. Yes, when I started speaking at conferences, talking with software developers about how to decentralize, how to create teams in different way, how to decentralize decision making. And of course, yeah, I had a lot of touch points with the agile software community. I was, for example, part of the stores movement. That was a long time ago, maybe 15 years ago. Within the agile movement, so to speak, I've tried to, I've worked as a consultant with software companies, but I never was quite happy with the tools and instruments that were applied in software development. Of course, this let's say the queasy feeling grew when agile frameworks came along. I think they are all dark agile, but we don't have to agree on that. Funny enough, today I wrote a few articles by Ron Jeffries. I overlooked him for some reasons. If you haven't noticed and read anything from Ron Jeffries, I think you should do so. He has been a critical voice, a relevant one, I think. But because I also fell in love with agile concepts and Scrum and sprints and so on about 15 years ago, longer even, I think 18, 19 years ago, it took me a long time to figure out how we could improve software development beyond what's known in Agile. So I would like to share these ideas with you. And here's a very important thing. Don't believe in anything that I say. I will not try to convince you. Just because I'm convinced of this doesn't mean that I have to convince you or you have to convince yourself in this session. You can do that whenever you like. But here's the hint. You are lost if you do not convince yourself of this stuff soon. Yeah. Okay. This is, of course, to shake this up a little. Shake it up. Shake it up. Isn't that a song by
Shake It Off, I think you're thinking? Taylor Swift?
Shake It Off? Yes, Shake It Off. Shake off your old notions. That's Taylor Swift, right? We could also say, tell me what you want, what you really, really want. That's an older song about soft. I think you all want to go time-oriented. Here's a little bit of background. Okay, I will try to invite you to tease you into thinking about this. Yes, is that okay? I will try to tease you, and then I will ask, what do you think? And then we might get going a little bit. The extroverts, some extrovert like myself, will say something, and then we can get going. Here's the thing. It all starts, of course, with, or let's fool ourselves. It all started with waterfall, which it didn't, right? Waterfall, I think it's not the beginning of software development, but the first abomination of software development. Yes. There's a spirit in waterfall, which is project management, the spirit of project management, right? Project management. Dealing with software development as a phased project. You probably all know this, but it's important because there is one key idea in waterfall project management methodology, which is capacity orientation. Capacity orientation is the key philosophy of all command and control management, of all project management, of all waterfall. It's the idea that you can divide work into phases, secure them, and do certain stuff in certain phases. Divide the work in phases, then attach capacity to the phases, get it done, and then everything gets out of control already. You know the thing, how it works. Yes? So the key idea of waterfall and project management overall is capacity orientation. Now, here's the thing. Capacity orientation sucks. One of the first companies that understood that capacity orientation is profoundly flawed and will never lead to punctuality, speed, quality, low cost. Of course, that company is called Toyota. By the way, this year I edited a book of quotes by Taiichi Ono. It's called What Would Ono-san Do? So if you want to get back to actual proper Toyota thinking, this might be a worthwhile read. Yes, a book of quotes, nicely designed, 160 quotes by Taiichi Ono. He explains this very well in his own words. So Toyota came up with the idea, let's not orient ourselves towards capacity, let's be time-oriented. Time orientation means to actually produce flow. Yes, and in Toyota's case, it also means single piece flow. It's sometimes called one piece flow, but one piece is a Japanese manga. So let's call it single piece flow. Yeah. Single piece flow means every item in the factory, every car is a single batch on its own that flows through the company. So you have heard about these things. And the concept that jumped out of this notion, this idea of time orientation have been called just-in-time, Kanban, Kaizen, etc., etc. Also, Heijunka, for example, very interesting concept that most leaners do not understand. Heijunka. Okay, so there are many concepts attributed or related to time orientation. Here's the thing, what happened with Agile? Of course, many people in what we now call the Agile movement they got queasy feelings in the 80s and 90s and wrote about it, and then some of them developed approaches like XP. Scrum was also developed, so they gathered in 2001 and so on, Agile Manifesto, and then everything got out of control. But here's the thing, my hypothesis for you, and I think this is true and undebatable. Core Agile has never overcome capacity orientation. Today, Agile today Agile today is still capacity oriented. Yes. Nobody in Agile today is working time oriented. Not even the Kanban people. Even Kanban is not time oriented, and certainly not Scrum. And here's how you know. Yes. And I only had this idea this summer that something with Scrum wasn't quite time oriented. Yeah. So this is not a critique of Scrum, of course. This is an invitation to rethink Scrum and reinvent it, which is long overdue, as most of you know. Yes. So we can see this. My proposal is not necessarily to overcome Agile, to overcome Scrum, but to create a renaissance, so to speak, to go back to the roots of software development. And here's the thing: how do we know that Scrum, etc., all Agile approaches basically are not time-oriented but capacity-oriented? You see it in practices like, and this is just an example, like sprints. A sprint is nothing more than an artificial batch. It's a batch processing. It's the opposite of what Toyota did since the 1950s and end of the 90s. It means that there's no single flow of items. That's why I mentioned single piece flow. Yes. In Agile, nothing flows individually. We still use batch processing. There are batches of batches. That's called Scrum, Agile frameworks. They produce batches of batches of batches, and batches. It's the batch matrix, so to speak. And yes, capacity orientation has never been overcome. Why? I think there was a crucial insight missing, that there is a distinction between capacity orientation and time orientation. But here's the thing: if you stay capacity oriented, people will never work together. There will never be self-organization. You will always have a tendency to have functional division and people trying to bridge it, yes, to bridge the functions. You will also have a tendency to centralization and steering. Why? Because this is natural. Flow of individual items is natural. Like if you build violins, you build one violin at a time, and the violins they do not pile up at the end of the process. You wait for the client to come in and produce a violin. Yes. But what we have been doing, I include myself here, is we have started to believe that sprints were flow oriented enough, and they aren't. They cannot be. They are artificial batches that will never work. Yes. Feedback is to transparency in sprints and other forms of batch processing like waterfall. It goes down. You have no transparency of what people are doing. In TOSD, in time-oriented software development, you have total transparency of what everybody is doing at the same time. So fundamentally, this is a huge mindset shift that I'm trying to invite you to forget about capacity orientation, which is fucking hard. So don't try it. It's really hard to overcome capacity orientation. So you really have to convince yourself that it's bad and evil. It is. And learn the principles and concepts of time orientation, some of which we might talk about. But first of all, I would like to invite you to make comments, ask questions, because this is the foundation. If we could agree on this, that capacity orientation sucks and that time orientation is a real thing, the only thing that works, which is why Toyota has been doing it successfully, then we would already be done almost. Any comments? I invite you to
maybe just to comment on Rion has asked just what the typical preference is, and it really depends on a speaker. So I think Niels is open to just as you have questions, raise your hand or just speak up. So
yes,
interrupt as always.
Yes.
Please, right.
Yes. And of course, Miljan as our host, he will have the task of like facilitating this a little bit, because I cannot see all your profiles. He probably has a bigger monitor, or 2 or 3. Do you have 3 monitors, Miljan?
I do.
I thought so. I only have 1. So yeah, any questions, comments? Either believers, disbelievers?
Yeah, no, great stuff. I think, the big miss has been the foundation of lean. Agile and Scrum even were founded on lean, right? And lean principles, and people have never really embraced those, right? So you get into that capacity, it's a resource kind of optimization. You're optimizing around the wrong things, right? And that's kind of where
Yes.
And if you get to that, let's optimize around customer-facing value and producing that one-piece single flow kind of thing, right? Produce something of customer value, the time under a time constraint, right? Let's get at that. The quickest, simplest thing to do there is, and that's a huge shift. And people in traditional companies have never really shifted that traditional orientation and mindset, and that has been a
Yes.
huge problem. So how do we,
Yes.
yeah, anything we can do to put sticks of dynamite under people to break through that is awesome. So
Wonderful.
looking for anything you've got right on that one.
That is a very positive stance. Wonderful. I love that comment, and I think it's worth adding that even lean people never embrace time orientation.
You've got to get to the fastest, what is the quickest way the most efficient, effective way to produce customer-facing value is what we have.
Yes, that's what everybody tells. That's the story we tell about Scrum, about Agile, about Lean, about everything, even about Six Sigma.
The way you do it, right? You've got to really be focused on, yes, we have to mean that. We have to get there, right? And that's
yes,
yeah.
but yes, exactly. But if you stick with beautiful contribution, Dave. Thank you. But if we stick with capacity orientation, we try to manage delays ultimately.
You manage delays, you manage dependencies. I have so many people thinking about doing that. They're trying to manage the same stuff they always have using different vocabulary, right?
Yes. And also the whole, beautiful that you brought it up, the whole dependency discussion, I think, is absolutely 100% worthless. It is just a symptom of capacity orientation and one of the stories we tell each other to manage delays instead of designing systems for punctuality. Here's the thing. Yeah. Dave, I love Dave. If you want to understand more about Lean and why most Lean is not time-oriented, I also published a paper this year about this. There are Lean approaches that are time-oriented. They have funny names like Lean RFS or Quick Response Manufacturing or the Weichselbaum system. Mr. Weichselbaum also appears in this paper of TOSD. He's like our philosophy of time, the greatest philosopher of time orientation. His name is Ernst Weichselbaum. It's like Ernst Weichselbaum from Austria. He passed away last year. He really figured this shit out, time orientation, how it really works. It's not trivial, but it means that you fix the time and let capacity swing, something that we have never learned in Agile or in Lean, or most companies cannot think it. Actually, I studied business administration, and one of the first things we learn in business schools is capacity is fixed. And the time will swing. You will never be punctual. You're doomed. We are all fucked, No,
that's fine. Yeah.
So we learn. We are being taught the church of capacity orientation, which is a bummer. Yeah, it's total depression. It never works. Everybody seems to be stressed because we have to do those things. And instead of letting things flow, which is only possible in time orientation, we bundle them and create series or batches. Yeah, it's a horrific thing, capacity orientation. Other questions and contributions? Dave, he's on my side. I sense that.
Yes.
I hope I won't lose him. Yes.
Alexander has a question in the chat. Can you give me an example from software production? Is the violin a feature or whole software, a web page, or just a line of code? Or am I still totally on the wrong path? And then
I didn't get that. What's the example? You wanted an example, Alexander? You wanted an example of?
Yeah, maybe Alexander go off mute, and it might be easier just to explain.
Yeah, I didn't quite get that. Is this the question about what is the single unit that should flow? Is that the question? Is it a line of software? Is it
yeah. That was the question.
Yeah.
Like how big is that kind of, or what is like the violin in software production?
Yeah. Oh, beautiful.
Especially if you're having like multiple projects, for example.
Yes. How many software are you thinking about the client? I know you are an Agile coach. Are you thinking about a specific client with how many developers?
Oh, I'm thinking, of course. Yeah,
I don't have to say who it is, what it is, but how many developers would be there?
Let's put it like we have 50 developers.
Okay.
Doing being in 6-7 teams, working on different projects, sometimes even different projects in a team. So things like that. Okay.
By the way, Alexander is almost teasing me. I will get to his answer, the answer he deserves in a moment. Yes. What is the thing, the single piece that's supposed to flow. What is that? Yes. And there is a simple answer to it. That's time-oriented, of course. If you have read the paper, you will know, but let me comment on some other thing. There is another profound flaw in Alexander's client. And it has to do with another way of capacity orientation. It expresses itself in sprints, in batches, and so on. Sprints, or like this kind of consolidation that you find in the all the scaling frameworks, you know. But it also finds its expression in the notion of, and might shock you. I hope Dave will still stay with me after I get this out. The idea of a software team is also an expression of capacity orientation. It is a doomsday idea. The software team is a terrible idea. It's a terrible ideology. And this is not obvious. Even the best, like Ron Jeffries, I think haven't quite cracked this mystery yet. Software is never developed by teams. This is an insight I had this summer when I started thinking harder about time orientation. I thought, oh, what's wrong with, why don't we get a handle on it, on software development? And one of the strange answers is software is never developed by a team. What is the opposite? So here's software is developed by teams, SIDBT. And what's the opposite? What would be, any guesses here? Who develops software? If it's not a team that develops a piece of software or a software, who the hell develops software? There's a simple answer to that, but it's not that simple. Okay, I learned this from our software, because I have a software company too, yes? And fundamentally, we have one developer there, yes? He develops all the stuff. His name is Andreas. He's also in the TOSD project with me, in the TOSD movement with me. So Andreas, he's a software developer. And I learned through him that sometimes when my partner, Silke and I, when we had an idea for our software, it's called Comenius. The system is called Comenius. When he understood the idea, the next day he would say, let's test it. And he had the feature developed. So I learned from him that software is never developed by a team, right? Because there was no team. It was just him. So who develops software? And there's this is about the philosophy of TOSD, of time orientation, of software development as it should be. Software is always developed by one person or two persons max. That's the truth of software development. Software is never developed by teams, so the software team is a beautiful illusion from capacity orientation. It's a way of batching software production. Yeah, the software team is irrelevant, shouldn't exist. Yes, because every single unit of software that's produced is produced by one person or by two people. Yes. Dave, are you still with me?
I am. I would say teams, you've got a little bit that you create the conditions by which a group of people come together. You might be a couple of developers, like you say, and there might be people who also need to test, which would be providing a different function within that space. But they don't, yeah, so there's a whole dynamic.
Yes,
there, right?
But who should test?
Yeah.
Who should test?
Different sets of tests, right? You don't.
Yeah. Who should test? If it's one person or two people developing the code, who should test? If we're talking about automated tests, let's talk about automated tests, not user
developers tests. Actually should be testing the code they write, and then other people at a higher level should be testing. You get a little bit of that? Is it really meeting the needs of our customers? Testing that sometimes developers tend to. It's a challenge.
Testing is the real world, right? Or that's why TDD, test-driven development, exists, because the software developers must test themselves. Otherwise, they are developing. Yes. They're just churning out code. Yeah,
which may or may not be right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, so they have to test, yes. Absolutely.
Testing is part of software development. Yes. So if you put all these pieces together, now you want to know how TOSD really works, right? Yes. If you put all these things together, follow me with the thinking. You don't have to agree with everything, of course. I know I'm right, but again, I'm not here to convince you. That would be foolish of myself. So what's the new thing in the combination point, or the most important, the most interesting feature of time-oriented software development is a very simple thing. It's called the OK point. This is a concept we inherited from Ernst Weichselbaum, the guy from Austria I mentioned, who passed away last year, aged 80 years. The priest, high priest, and key philosopher of time orientation, he invented this name, this concept of the OK point. But he worked with and for manufacturing companies, production companies, never worked with software development. So we kind of, Sebastian and I, when we developed TOSD, we appropriated this concept of the OK point because it's needed to make software development time-oriented. So the OK point is the crucial, it's like a handshake. The OK point is like a handshake where you have to do the crucial thing. It's called TTEO. TTEO is the dirty secret of time-oriented, any good software development. Talk to each other. That's TTEO, talk to each other. Okay, so the OK point here, it's a place in time where people shake hands and talk to each other about a very significant thing. So here's one thing that we also had to figure out, developing time-oriented, developing a Toyota way of developing software. By the way, Toyota doesn't use this way of developing software, I hear. So you cannot ask Toyota about it. But here's one of the essential things I have learned in 20 years about software development. It is the following. Software development has two different sides. Yes? And one of these sides, we call it realization, where you actually produce the code and do testing as well. And you develop tests as well. But part of the test, so part of the testing is part of realization. Part of the testing is part of some of the testing also goes on in the other phase. But here's the thing. The key idea of time orientation is to fix time and let capacity swing. So you stop believing that capacity is fixed and start to believe that, no, the delivery time, realization, that must be fixed. It must be fixed. So how does that work? Let's assume that realization will always take 1 day or 2 days or 3 days and never more. Never more than 3 days. If you have a really great software development team and really great software developers, you will eventually trash the 3-day period and go back to develop a single piece in software development. You will do it in 1 day or 2 days and not in 3 days. And if you are even better, you will develop all the pieces or realize all the pieces of software in just 1 day. But for TOSD generally, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days is reasonable. And never more, which leads us to the question that Alexander asks, right? What's the size of this piece of software that can be developed in 1 day, 2 days, 3 days? And the answer is we call these individual pieces, we call them items. That's not the answer, of course. But an item cannot take longer than 1, 2, or 3 days to realize. That's the answer. Is this more than a line of code? Yes, of course. Yes. It must be testable, for example. It must be tested. Yes. Can it be interdependent with, can one item be interdependent, connected with other items so that you can maybe only do the full testing after you have developed 5 items together? Yes. Yes, they can be interconnected, but it shouldn't be discussed. It's natural that items can be connected. Yeah. So one item goes through this phase, which we haven't named yet. It goes to the OK point. It's handed over to 1 or 2 people realizing it. And then it takes 1, 2, or 3 days to be ready and delivered, ideally, directly to the client. Yes? Testing is included. Why can you can only have 1 or 2 developers doing it? Because, again, software is never developed by a team. It's developed by 1 or 2 people. If you want to do pair programming, you have 2 people. Yeah? If nobody needs pair programming because all the developers have great mastery, then wonderful, then people can eventually do most items by themselves. That's even more beautiful. But sometimes, of course, you will think, okay, to produce this item or realize this item in 1 day, we need 2 developers, so we bunch them together and they will do it together. Okay? Very simple concept, right? But the idea is fix the time, and fixing the time of realization in 1 day, 2 day, 3 days is only possible if you have an okay point. What comes before? Again, I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just discussing this with you. Of course, here's the missing piece. Conceptualization comes before. Conceptualization, you can time box the conceptualization phase as well. You can say, okay, this can take maximum of 1 day or half a day, or conceptualization should never, sometimes research is involved, right? So you might need a day. But you can also time box this. Ideally, you will time box both the conceptualization. So 1 or 2 people write the concept, which include writing tests sometimes, or defining tests, or at least defining the framework for the tests. Then at the okay point, the conceptualizer or conceptualizers and the realizer or realizers shake hands. The realizer or realizers take on the item and will realize it in 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, as agreed at the okay point. And to deliver the item within that time box is a matter of honor, which is something very serious, not to be taken lightly, which is why you need TTEO here. You need to do TTEO at the okay point. You need to talk to each other. The conceptualizers and the realizers need to talk to each other at the okay point and perform a handshake. Questions? This is the secret. This is all there is. No Scrum Masters, no Agile coaches, no product owners, no product managers, no testers, because everybody tests or nobody tests, right? That sounds like Bosch, Harry Bosch, one of our heroes, Ryan, right? Everybody counts or nobody counts. That's one of the, from a TV show called Bosch. And everybody tests or nobody tests, yes? So, yeah, this is half of the concept already. But one of the key ideas is to eliminate the frameworks, eliminate software teams. As you can see, there's no need for them, yes? Eliminate those roles, eliminate the sprint planning, eliminate the daily stand-ups, because people will talk, this is a secret. People will encounter problems, right? In conceptualization, at the okay point, realization. I mean, here they will talk to each other anyways, but if people in time-oriented software development encounter a problem, they will do the most radical thing, the most absurd, radical, extreme thing, TTEO. Yeah, talk to each other at the moment, in the moment. They will not wait for the sprint planning because there will be no sprint planning. They will not wait for a retrospective to talk. They will talk in that moment. Otherwise, they are betraying the system. They are betraying themselves and everybody else. Yeah. So this is it's really simple, right? But you only get to this concept if you have an okay point. You only get to this if you time box realization. You only get to it if you understand that, if we accept that software is always developed by 1 people or 2 people and never more than that. Questions, comments? Of course, this is just a webinar, so speak freely. We don't have to agree. I'm not selling you anything. Any comments? Maybe even from real software.
I'd be terrified to not have my QA people. Like my QA people are really make me great. And I think like it's not only like testing does the functionality work, it's also testing like, if I make like a content type, my QA person will try and create some actual content to see if, anything's off there. Or like with visual stuff, like you can't really test, pixel designs and things, is your div in the right place, are you padding right? So things like that you do at some level, like the way we do it, I'll make a feature, I'll put my feature into QA, and then our QA people will do does it work QA, and then we'll go to design QA, and they'll go, does it meet the design? And then we finally push the thing into main, and it takes forever, but I don't know a better process.
But you just got to know a better process. This is a better process. Very interesting, your comment. This is the better process, because I think what you just described is departmental handovers, right? Between developer, a department for testing, department for that. Maybe it's not your words that I'm using.
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah.
But here the idea is to think about, okay, there is an item. Who do we need to conceptualize it? Do we need a designer? Oh my God. Do we need somebody who understands of UX or shit like that? Those things exist in TOSD, right? Or do we just need normal people? In Patke, the company where we first deployed time-oriented software development, some people who conceptualize items are not software developers. They are incapable of writing decent software, but they can conceptualize.
Yeah.
And some software developers are not authorized to conceptualize. This is very important in TOST, to nominate the people who are allowed to conceptualize. And you might have designers conceptualizing, yes. But here in realization, you probably do not have, a manager who's incapable of developing. Here you must have the real developer, so to speak, right? And everybody tests, yes? You have to prepare. Ultimately, what this company learned is that if the concept is well done, the tests are written already on a certain level. Yes?
Yeah, I have been on some projects where we've had very lean teams, and it's worked out really well. I've been on some other projects where it didn't work out, but there's just so much variation in software developing. Whether it's your clients, your product, the features you're doing, the language you're working in.
Yeah. Of course, if you have excellent software developers working excellently together, you will have this kind of thing.
That is true.
But doesn't that assume that excellence is everywhere, which is just not the case? And I don't mean to be
That's a valid point.
Or funny,
exactly.
But I'm just being real, especially the larger the organization. And I would say put me on the JV, don't even put me on the varsity, right? So I don't want to make it sound like I'm the head honcho or whatever, but just we're speaking freely. Doesn't that assume that everybody's an all-star?
Exactly. This was no much.
Yes, with TOS.
Beautiful. Yeah. Why would you think that everybody would have to be an all-star?
In the conceptual, because if I'm picking up what this other gentleman was putting down, in our conceptualization stage, it's not all the time that we're going to have all those test scenarios figured out, especially if I'm thinking about Alexander's comment when, yes, okay, we had the perfect team for this project. Now we're on to the next thing, right? And that the language or the product is not that team's specialty, but for whatever reason, management says, they got an A+ on the last assignment. Let's put the team that got the A+ on the next assignment. High visibility. They might not be the all-stars for that next product, for that next solution that needs to be developed or conceptualized to then get all those test cases flushed out, so to speak, right? Yes. So now you end up, as you move through, you think you've done the proper handshakes, you think you've talked to each other to the correct amount, but down the line, things run amok.
Yes. Beautiful comment. And I especially enjoyed that you also try to think inside the system, when you talk about the problems.
I'm so far, I'm on your team. You got me, you got us supported thus far, but I'm just trying to flush it out.
Just one thing, and you really hinted at one of the conditions of time-oriented software development, which is this. And you took us back to the question of software teams. They shouldn't exist, right? In TOST, what happens is that because you said managers, I assume that you talked about your current reality or the reality you observe, that we all observe. Current reality is that managers assign developers or teams or whatever, agile coaches and stuff, to projects, and it's supposed to work. Of course, that can never work. That's just part of the nastiness of capacity orientation that we talked about, that managers define what the capacity is, who is there, they do the staffing and shit. Yeah, and that can never work, right? In TOST, there is an element of TOST that I haven't drawn on here, but you have to thinking on the level of individual items that will flow through conceptualization, the OK point to realization. You will have to think of it like this. There is, for every item, you must staff the item with the right conceptualizers and the right realizers. We call these conceptualizers, we call them C's, and there are R's. That sounds strange, but yeah. C people, R people, yes. Some people are C's and R's. They can conceptualize and realize, yes. So you have an item, you will ask, okay, who can conceptualize this? Who should conceptualize this? Is it just one person? Should it be two people? And who? Yes. So I think this hints beautifully at a doubt that you just expressed. I'm not sure who just talked.
Ivan Mukasa.
Thank you. Yes. The doubt, I think, was how can we staff this stuff? How can we it's a capacity-oriented question, really, right? How to staff this. And the real answer in TOSD is that the individual item staff has to staff itself. That's the key, one of the keys of self-organization, right? People have to look at the item and say, for example, you have conceptualizers, Cs, they will look at the list of items and say, I take this item because it suits me, it fits, and I need that other person to do it with me, that kind of thing. So in order to produce
the bigger the organization, it seems like it'll be tougher because you don't always have that power. The team thing got
we have to create.
Yeah.
You're exactly right.
I see what you're saying.
Because I think Ivan goes in.
Ryan, yes?
Oh, I was going to say that's the exact issue of authorization. Who's also authorized to talk to who, when, and who has to ask permission to talk to people.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's an obstacle to overcome.
But here, I think it's part of the system design. It's a beautiful topic, by the way. Let's create an understanding here that this is one of the key points, I think, why most Agile sucks and it fails and has never produced much improvement or much, this is the kind of system that we all dreamt about, and that the Agile Manifesto dreams about. Because authorization was missing. Yeah, so authorization is one of the key things that has to change in software development. But maybe I give you another detail that might clear things up a little bit, because when our colleague asks about projects and how to staff them implicitly, here's the thing how TOSD goes on with this. You have to have a list. We call it the list, yes? And on the list, you find these items. Item 1, item 2. Items are things, units of work that can be produced in 1 day, realized in 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Otherwise, it's not an item. Yes. On the list, you can only move items through this process, if we call it a process, if you can realize it in 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. So if in conceptualization, the 1 or 2 conceptualizers find that, okay, this is not an item, it would take a week to do it, even for our most capable Swiss knife-like developer, our MacGyver of software development, our golden girl or golden dude, they couldn't make it in 3 days. So you have to divide it into 2 items. Simple as that. Yes. So yes, the list contains the items. You might say that if you have a project, or let's say even better, if you have a problem, it must have a list. Yes, and you will have people working on the list. And those people will work specifically on items that flow through this process, from conceptualization through the OK point to realization. And realization is strictly time-boxed. So usually 1 item flows through this whole thing in probably 2 days or 3 days or 4 days. That's pretty much it. Every item flows through this process very fast because realization is time-boxed. And of course, conceptualization shouldn't take that long, right? Let's say it takes a day, then the whole is 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, not more, never more. This is how things should work. Then you need no sprint planning, no retrospectives, no dailies, because people within the work, they will have to talk. The conceptualizers will have to talk to the list owner. Every list will have an owner, right, who understands the problem, who sets up a list of items, and then everybody can make contributions to, refine the list. They can discuss the list at any time. There will be no planning meeting to talk about the list. They can, if somebody here, a realizer, sees a problem on the list, they will have to talk immediately, not next week, not in 2, not in 4 weeks, right? So this concept, very simple, right? And best of all, self-organized. Yes.
Simple in thinking about it, but I'm thinking about okay, we spent 2 years with a certain group developing that list and who can flush it out. And then individuals retire, individuals leave, new individuals come in. I'm wondering how we re-engage those conversations, but still we still have to make money. You know what I mean?
You want to take 2 years to set up a list?
No.
You offered us this problem. It would take a long time to produce a list.
Okay.
That cannot be right.
I see.
No, it's brilliant that you brought it up. It's brilliant. Okay, so here's the thing. It's a discussion we had at Pratke as well. We discussed this long and hard developing TOSD, before writing the paper or while writing the paper even. You can only make up a list if you have understood the problem, if you have really understood the problem. Most software development today, nobody understands the problem, so all kind of garbage is being done. That's one of the many wastes of software development today, right? You do not have a proper understanding of the problem, so you work on stuff that shouldn't be worked upon. There's not insufficient authorization. The product owner doesn't have a clue, etc., 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 etc. Or the product manager or whatever you have doesn't have a clue. In TOSD, there must be proper authorization. The list owner must understand the problem. Otherwise, she or he cannot set up the list. So you're totally right. Your comment is to the point.
This does also really hinge on the client being 100% engaged. And we have oftentimes clients that are not 100% engaged, which leads us to the list that takes 2 years to develop.
Yes. And who's to blame?
I mean, I'll blame the client because it's me, but
must be us, right? Must be us. Not the client.
I know we are actually trying to work more in training our clients. That's been a big thing that we're trying to. It's hard though.
Yes. Can I offer you a Baba Ryan? That was so beautiful what you just said. Can I offer you another dose,
of course,
thing that maybe none of you will like? Maybe you will hate it because we just went through sprints are bad. Software development teams are bad illusion, terrible illusion, from the realm of capacity orientation. And here's another thing. And this is the toughest for us all, you all, I think. Training is really bad for setting up a good system of software development, for getting things done, for moving to TOSD, for even becoming agile as a thing. Training is really bad. Certification is really bad. We cannot go on with this. I think this is a tough thing to swallow, right? But training doesn't get us anywhere. The real thing we need for software development to flow, and this is generally speaking, regardless if you think of TOSD or Scrum or SAFe, you would have to have proper authorization. And you cannot substitute authorization by training and certification. And that's what we have doing. Sadly, most of us have been doing for decades now. And I think we have gotten to a point where we have to admit that training and certifying people to become agile or to do agile or to produce flow or whatever however you call it, it cannot work. It has never worked. We must design the system differently, which is why TOSD by definition, doesn't require certification, no training. You just set up the system and go. And then people will learn, obviously. At Pratke, to give you an example, we started this in September, I think. And of course, they needed to learn how to conceptualize, how to realize in the limited time. And there has been, revolt occasionally and people wouldn't stand the idea of doing things in time, which is bizarre in a way. Or people wouldn't have the proper mastery, so they would have to learn how to become proper realizers. So things that shouldn't take 3 days take 3 days. You will have all these things. In real world companies, you will have all these things, right? But you need authorization, design the system, and then people will learn. That's the idea of advancing. That's also the idea. I can only recommend this to you before Ian speaks. Ian, we know each other somewhere. Yes, we met in Maine, of course. Okay. Here in this book, you will find, or in other sources about Taiichi Ohno, you will find hints at why they created Kanban. They created Kanban. This is very Kanban-y, the real Kanban. It doesn't solve your problems, says Taiichi Ohno. Flow or time orientation by itself doesn't solve your problems. If you have a problem of lack of mastery, it will pop up. Yes. Some other problems, though, will disappear. The need for training and certification, the need for planning and sprint planning, the need for estimation, the need for these user stories and other stuff, the need for the endless discussions about how to do the daily stand-up, the retrospective, and so on. All this goes away. But the real problems, qualification, for example, capability, software developers are not willing to write tests and to do testing. Those are things that will pop up in this approach, in creating flow, right? So that's the magic. It's very much rooted in what Toyota did. Ian, what do you have to say?
I was just going to offer that I think one of the things that makes it hard to receive what Niels is communicating is that we inhabit these organizations that have all of these layers of assumptions about how things must work. And Niels is speaking from a place well beyond them. There's also the assumptions that that we're making here that organizations exist to produce value in this way, that they want to. There's all kinds of other reasons that they you know what I mean? So I think for us to effectively receive what Niels is sending out here is we have to put those aside temporarily and not imagine ourselves doing this within the context of the current organization that we inhabit, right?
But yes, and we can recreate our organizations in this image.
Yes,
but we have to break the patterns of thinking.
Exactly. Right? What I love about what you're putting forth, though, is it's fundamental human nature. This is what humans do. We conceptualize and we realize, and then we see what happens. We conceptualize and we realize. It's fundamentally innate to like the human condition.
And we talk to each other.
And we talk to each other. Yeah.
We talk to each other.
We learn.
Day sprints is unnatural because the sun goes up, the time goes down. This is one of the beautiful what you just said. I hope you will join the team of TOSD associates, by the way. If you do not do that, I will have to send some kind of bomb to you because that would be shame, So I cannot afford not to. You cannot.
I will.
I will. No, as in the Godfather movie.
Like I will.
You will find a horse's head.
I'm trying to build organizations that do this. Like that's my next thing is okay, if we can't change existing, maybe we can build new that fundamental to their DNA is this, right?
Yes, that's a good idea. But even if what if you're taking this to a beautiful place, Ian?
Cheryl has her hand up, so I don't know if.
No, just a second. I just have to take this. I have to deviate a little from the topic. Ian wonders if it's possible to do this in an existing company with existing software developers and existing structures. Our hypothesis is no. We have tested this. It takes 4 weeks to introduce this kind of system to make this system real. But there is one precondition. You need a person who really wants this. That's how why I sang the song by the Spice Girls. Tell me what you want, what you really want. And if you tell me what you really want, you probably want value, you want product, you want profit, you want software developers who learn and have fun. This is the system to go. If you have a sponsor who really wants this and who has maybe 50 software developers, like in Alexander's case, or 1,000, then you can set up this kind of system in 4 weeks and get going, do the go live in 4 weeks without training or certifying anyone. That's the key hypothesis of this kind of system. It's very simple. You just have to take away, which is Ian brilliantly hinted at that. You have to break through certain beliefs. That takes a week or 2 or 3 or 4, but not more. You have to break through certain beliefs, eliminate certain structures, and then you can go with it. Yes. Producing entire organizations that work like that is also possible. I've been working with that for a long time, but this is faster for software development. Sharon, thank you for raising a true developer of software.
Yes.
He says,
and I was thinking, kind of similar to what Ian was saying, is that we have a very specific way we're being asked to do something, and I may be.
Who is we?
The company that I work for.
Is it developing software for itself or for clients?
For clients. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I think that we're in a situation right now where we are being asked to do, our sprint ceremonies, but like you said, the one thing that I've always been frustrated by is that we're given these large chunks sometimes for projects to do, and we can't fit them into our 2-week sprint. And it goes over, and it's interesting to me because one of the things that we've been trying to do on my team, not to use that word as it's taboo today, but
we can use the dirty word: sprint, software team, estimate, user stories. We can say all that. Scrum master, agile coach. We can say it all.
Yes. So and I am actually the scrum master for my team as well. but one of the things I've been trying to do is for us to look at those tickets that we're working on and try to break them into the smaller pieces and slightly in smaller deliverables. And so I think this is in line with how we've been trying to, it's almost like we're trying to find a balance between what we're being told to do and conform to as a team, and the idea of, like Ian was saying, where our nature is, no, let's get something that we can do quickly and well, and get that delivered, even if it's not a solution to the entire problem yet.
Yes.
But I think part of that too, when we were talking about the talking to each other, I felt like i-
But
it's
stop here for a moment, otherwise it's too much.
oh,
Just a
okay, no problem.
quick one. And of course, my idea is not to answer to it all because that's impossible in this session, but I want to give you one thing that I hope will make you all, you will like it or hate it. Yes? Is that okay, Cheryl? I will not directly answer, but you can, the second part, and then Dave can say something. But
Absolutely.
first, you said something very interesting that I want to pick up as a quasi answer. You talked about tickets. And tickets are from one of these rounds, capacity orientation or time orientation. Tickets are totally the dark side of capacity orientation. No decent flow organization will ever allow to have tickets. Tickets are an antithesis to decent work, to relationships, to talking to each other. Actually, team tickets only exist because somebody hates to talk to somebody. That's why ticket systems exist. All ticket systems are evil. All ticket systems are evil. ATSAE. It's very important to understand that ticket systems, you cannot organize the work according to tickets, because tickets are not problems. Tickets might be just waste or lack of relationship or lack of conversation. They do not indicate how the work is done. Yeah, to understand the work, to contribute to a list or make a list or revise a list, you must understand the problem. And tickets will never help you. Only TTEO will help you. Yeah? Do the most radical thing, TTEO, not tickets. Actually, my client, Pratke, they are now abolishing tickets with their clients to understand their problems better. They have a ticket system to relate with their clients, and they are abolishing it. At the 31st of January, they are turning it off, so that they are forced to talk to their clients better, understand the problems better. Yeah. And those are, because if this relates again to what Ian said, we have all these assumptions about work and organization and what's normal and natural, and none of it is. It's all command and control. Capacity orientation is very command and control, which waterfall and sprints are very command and control. To have an agile coach is very command and control, by the way, or to have a scrum master, I think it's very command and control ultimately, because you all have to steer the work by others. It's not healthy. Yeah. But this is to provoke you not to answer Cheryl's question. And you have another one or another where you want to add?
Well, it goes along with the TTEO.
Yes.
I think that listening, it almost sounds like either the scenario you're putting out there, or maybe it's other people's experiences in the workplace where the developers are working in a bit of a vacuum. And
Yes.
that's what I'm hearing, where it's almost like, talk to each other. And I know in my experience,
you understand that talking to each other sounds like a vacuum?
well, I'm only hearing, I mean, no.
Sounds lazy?
I think just in my experience, when the talking to each other on the problem, I think at my company, at least, we do try to make sure that each other isn't necessarily just within development. We have experts outside of development who are working maybe closer to our clients than I am as an engineer. And when yes, we definitely are capacity oriented. I'm not going to pretend we're not. But so when I get that ticket, if I'm looking at it, you're right. I don't, sometimes I look at them and I'm like, I don't really understand what's going on here.
Usually,
and that's when we do
the thing
talk.
you think about the ticket is that the client is dumb. We had this discussion on Friday at our client. Usually, tickets produce the idea the client is so dumb. Oh my God, they don't get anything. No?
Oh, there are definitely times where that happens. Yes. but usually, but that's when we do talk to them, and maybe it's through a third party, maybe it's through our support
Exactly. So
text
the idea is to
or
talk to the
someone.
person who
Absolutely.
always to never hesitate to talk to each other means to never hesitate to clarify the problem, to understand the problem, to fight, to have discourse, to have conversation. That's the idea, right? And if you think about how if you folks and people, men, women, everything in between and beyond, think about how your companies work, they probably don't do that. Do you address the problems?
No, yeah, I don't want to step on Cheryl's question, but that's the crux. Like, I personally don't think, like, Ian's point was so profound, and I'm really marinating on it. But I do not. My experience is most people do not want the smoke. Most people do not want that uncomfortable conflict, that
Yeah.
uncomfortable conversation, so to speak. And
Yes.
my experience is there's very rarely, it's what your team of 10, maybe two people have that muscle, right? So how do you fight that
Yes.
as you're trying to implement this? And again, I don't want to step on Cheryl's
It's the other way
path.
around. Beautiful point, Ivan. Thank you for dropping in. I mean, Dave, you still have to wait, but he can handle it, I think. Ivan, brilliant point. But here's the thing. We have conditioned normal people into behaving like stupid people, like donkeys. That's what Waterfall has done and what Agile as usual has also, to a point, done. We assume that software developers, Mike is showing a crying face. I'm not sure why, but okay. I think we have conditioned people into behaving like losers instead of behaving like winners, or takers or learners and people having fun developing software, right? The systems we produced isolated, sad, because the system capacity orientation is super sad. It produces sad people who never get anything done. I wanted to say something about Ernst Weichselbaum. He said, in a farming society, a farmer, you go on the field in the morning and return to the evening, and you know that the day's deed is done. You get from the work. You get closure
That's
from
good. That's good.
software developers or people most organizations in general. In hospitals, it's different. People who work in a hospital or in social service, at the end of the day, they get closure. They get the feeling that the day's deed is done. Software developers don't, because we have sprints or worse, waterfall, etc., or safe. Yes. And the idea of TOSD is to give people closure. Every day, ideally, they are supposed to deliver an item or deliver concepts, right? So we want people to get the satisfaction. Oh, they're great songs that come to mind. We want to give them a little bit of satisfaction. That's a song by Wendy and Lisa. We want to give people closure in realization, but also in conceptualization. Yeah, every day, ideally, and to not to give software developers that feeling of closure, of delivering something every day, ideally. Of course, in TOSD, sometimes you will only deliver every 2 days or 3 days. That's not ideal. Ideal is to deliver every day. Yeah. But still, we compromise a little bit here. Yes. And we say, well, at least people get closure every second day or third day, or ideally every day. And that's what's beautiful about this kind of work. Dave, do you want to? Are you trying to say something, or are you just holding up your virtual hand?
No, I would love to say something. Yeah. So yeah, great discussions, right? And I think I wanted to address this. I love what you're saying here. I'm fully supportive of what you're doing, and I want to kind of get to the point around existing companies, right? And that's a real challenge.
Yes.
What you're doing, I would paraphrase Bruce Lee here.
Okay.
Honestly,
Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee. So he challenged the martial arts community in his day, but it was all about stripping away the inessentials, right? Let's get at the core of what works, and let's make sure it works in practice, right? It's not, you don't discard things early, but you're getting at the core, and your point about training is also important. Let's get people interested in that conceptualization to realization, talk to each other dynamic. If they're interested in that and they're seeing benefit in that, they'll start asking other questions around and bring their expertise and skills up to address that, as opposed to train people on something and then they may or may not get that right. So the dynamic shifts very heavily here. You do have to get somebody interested in this, but this becomes something, the anti-agile movement going on. It's really around get people interested in that realization and getting things done earlier. Smaller things lead to greater predictability, as we all know from lean, right? That's the other thing that's a selling point to companies. And then you also get away from the dynamic of a lot of partially completed inventory that's kicking around in a lot of these big projects, multiple teams, multiple people, and you assemble the parts later, right? And there's the inventory thing. You don't see all the inventory piling up in front of machines in a software development organization, but it's there, right? And get very afraid of that pile, right?
Yes. By the way, in the things to do, they appear in the list, right? The list has items, and it might have hundreds of items.
Yeah, so if you haven't realized it, and where is it, right? We got to get stuff to that realization and done, and then pull more stuff through, right? That would be
of course, you have to think about, okay, we have this list of 500 items. This is very different from a backlog, by the way. A list is not a backlog. A list ends. You always finish a list. Otherwise, it's not a problem. You haven't understood the problem, right? If you have understood the problem, it will turn into one list and you have to finalize it. You empty the list because it all flows down here, right? Like a river. The river only runs...
I love this stuff. It's all right at the core. It's the heart of what we need to be kind of anchoring ourselves around. Yeah,
exactly. It's very simple. As you say, of course, one of the key questions that we might briefly address tonight today is how to get to that. And it's very simple. Again, it takes 4 weeks, but you need somebody who really, really wants this. Yes. You need a sponsor, so to speak. But creating this kind of system, it's very straightforward. Yeah? We describe the process quite a bit in the paper, by the way. Okay. Again, this is available for free download. You can read the story of how it was done at Pratke, and we give a bit of conceptual advice in the paper as well, right? So this is not a miracle. It's very back to the roots in a way, but it requires, as Ian highlighted, to swallow the red pill first, right? To grasp that the real enemy is not lazy software developers who do not want to communicate. Stupid clients, those are not problems. The problem is the systems we build, capacity-oriented, command and control, and we have gotten used to. And sometimes we argue that there is no other way. I have a personal friend, a longtime friend. He recently told me he doesn't see any other way of developing software than whatever, Scrum or whatever, right? And of course there is another way. It's just that it is unthinkable from the perspective of capacity orientation. Or as Ernst Weichselbaum always like to say, from the perspective of the old, the new is always wrong. So if time orientation at this point seems wrong to you, it's just natural. Yeah, you're still in the mindset of capacity orientation. It's totally normal. Nothing absurd. This seems wrong at first. It's totally normal. It even seemed wrong to me a couple of months ago. Yeah. So,
but this is also maybe just to add to this, all of this is kind of going back to your work on complexity management, and what you're talking about here is changing the system, but what about my also concern or doubt is in broader, first of all, in the environment and systems that we live in are not necessarily designed for complexity. If you look at typical organization, how it's structured, it's not necessarily structured to best deal with complexity. So you're introducing here a model for software development, and I think it works in that context. But the broader systems that encompass that system here, time-oriented software development, are not conducive to this type of work, or they'll try to break it or not align with it. So that's the challenge. That's the challenge, I think, that's always been there with waterfall, with Agile, with everything, that the bigger systems are.
Behind capacity orientation is a mental model that Miljan just referred to that I always talk about. I've written books, so you can look it up on YouTube or wherever you like. I write a lot and put out a lot of videos and so on. And I spoke twice at Agile Main at the conference about this. There is a mindset behind capacity orientation. It's command. You can call it command and control. We also like to call it alpha. And the mindset behind, or the idea behind time orientation and also decentralization and so on, we call it beta, or the beta codex, yes? And there is the alpha codex, a system of beliefs that make up command and control thinking. For example, to assume that employees are dumb, that's very, or theory X, people who need to be motivated with carrot and stick, that's very alpha thinking. Yeah? And of course, if you believe, Douglas McGregor gave us this nomenclature, this wording, theory X, thinking about people as dumb, lazy, and trying to avoid the work. If you think like that, then you will have to move to capacity orientation. You have to, create sprints and force or bribe people to do the work. So as Millian correctly said, this TOSD, time-oriented software development, as we call it, it requires a certain way of thinking.
Yeah.
Yes,
but it also so this is my other concern, where under pressure and given the current situation in the world, people degrade to the alpha codex.
Yes.
So yes. It makes it even tougher now to implement this beta codex or time-oriented software development because of the pressures that people are feeling in organizations. So that mindset shift, or that better that you're thinking, it makes it even more difficult. So it is. I see what you're saying, but it's how changing the code.
Yes. Yes.
No,
the
go
question
ahead.
I ask you all is, where do you think will this end? If we assume that pressure will only make us worse, and we will be more, do more safe, have more agile coaches, then where will this end?
Eventually, there's going to be a tipping point, but I don't see that tipping point yet.
Yeah, right? I think the tipping point is there, not for the world, but for individual people who get tired and sick and tired of agile as it was, with fake agile or dark agile or whatever, however you might call it, or with capacity orientation. So we need to, of course, we need to find people who are sick and tired, who want something that works. And this is the beauty about TOSD. It's about time orientation in general. It really works because the world is time oriented.
Yeah,
I recommend you to read about it and think about time orientation. I wrote a couple of pieces on Substack. We published the papers, which are about time orientation. Time is it's the real boss. Nobody can escape it. Nobody can escape it. Time is the boss. Yeah, and to think that you can beat time with capacity orientation is just dumb. It's a fundamental misunderstanding, which Toyota, people like Taiichi Ono or Shigeo Shingo at Toyota, they understood this many decades back, right? That you cannot beat time. Make time the process, so to speak. And that means move to flow. Move to single piece flow, if you can. And in software development, you can. Yes. So instead of fighting time, using time and design systems for punctuality. This is one of the Ernst Weichselbaum messages. Better design punctuality than managing delays. Yes. And there is no way out. Millian, you just said it. There's crisis everywhere, so to speak, even a political crisis in some of our countries. So yeah, where does it leave you? Do you want to harden on capacity orientation, or do you want to escape the mess? Yes. And escaping the mess is the only way that works. I can only recommend it because do you want to be a loser forever? This is the loser model. It's for losers. Yeah. It's just for losers. And that's what I tell my clients. Of course, when they accept this, oh yeah, we are in a loser model, then I have a client. Yes, you should do the same, I suggest. You can stay a loser, or you can move to the winning side. It's not that hard. It doesn't take much time. It takes 4 weeks in the case of TOSD. In the case of transforming an entire organization, we also developed an approach, by the way, to make a little bit of propaganda, open space beta, transformation of entire organizations in 90 days. It's not an illusion, it's open source, everybody can do it. Ian, you know about all this, of course. What do you want to do?
Just an opinion. It kind of goes to the heart of what you're saying and this conversation. I think we will hit a tipping point, or it's already happening, as more and more folks start to embrace these things and the results are seen. And if the economic conditions still remain competitive, then what will happen is these new organizations that are truly tapped into actual intrinsic motivation, really harnessing. I mean, we know today that most organizations function at maybe 1 to 5% of what their actual potential is, maybe, right? That's just the norm. And these new organizations, if they tap into this, their levels of productivity will be unbelievable, orders of magnitude greater, and they will eat incumbents alive. And then it will no longer be optional to have a beta type of orientation, right? It will be you either do it or you or go out of business.
That's what the Detroit manufacturers have experienced competing with Toyota for decades now. And they
Exactly.
are done, basically. Or Volkswagen even, you know. I live in Germany now. Volkswagen is pretty much done, eroded, you know. Also, I want to give you one more personal thing. I mean, we are all part of the Agile movement. And I'm not sure if you are witnessing this already, but the Agile movement is imploding right now. And I see this with sadness. I observe this with sadness. In Germany, for example, you hardly find any Agile coaches in work anymore. And, you know, people are escaping the Agile sphere or leaving the Agile sphere. I think it's happening. Some people have talked about this for years, like Daniel Mesick, a colleague and friend of mine. You know, they have talked about this failure of Agile for years.
At the same time, though, what you're describing is the core of agility. I mean, there's a case to be made that what we call the Agile movement was just a bunch of snake oil.
So we have
it was a money-making engine.
It is the Agile industrial complex, as Daniel Mesick called it. Yes.
What you're describing,
maybe it was
though,
a bridge.
But just a second, Ivan, just a second. We have now the chance to revitalize Agile or go beyond Agile. It's your choice.
Yeah.
It's not mine, it's not ours individually, but collectively we can tweak the Agile business models to death until everybody hates it. Something like that happened with Lean. Yes. The Scrum of Lean was Six Sigma. Six Sigma took over Lean at a certain point, and then it went downhill. It was a huge success, huge business model. Some people still earn money with Six Sigma, but it also killed Lean because the two things were connected. But Six Sigma is really an antithesis to actual Lean values, as I think some of you mentioned. So the same, I think, is happening if we do not overcome dark Agile, as Ron Jeffries called it. Yes, I think there is now the chance to embrace something that works. I suggest it's time orientation. It's very simple, very straightforward. Everybody can do it, you know, in principle, but it requires us to change our business models. Some of us, you know, to change our business models, to change the way we work, if we want to do that. It's a suggestion, yeah. Ivan, do you want to add something?
No, I'm just thinking in real time.
That's good.
Just maybe everything that's going on right now, because I'm what Ian said really stuck with me as far as maybe as far as this new method, maybe thinking in real time. Maybe it's the method that's going to bring the orders of magnitude of productivity, right? So there's no escaping it. And maybe what we're going through right now is the bridge to get there. Like it wasn't going to be like I understand what you're saying, 4 weeks. It can be like a light switch, but that's what I'm trying to grasp. Yes. As far as, okay, why not? Why wasn't it 4 weeks for everybody? Why isn't everybody just flipping the light switch on and TOSD, let's go?
Read Bob Emiliani's work.
Okay. You know, you had to kind of go through the crisis, you know, the disruption, the murkiness, right? To get to the green pastures.
Well, you can believe that something better must be possible. I do not think it's a crisis. I do not believe in the crisis hypothesis, because there have been situations in history where companies have changed not just out of crisis, but because somebody really, really wanted something different. You know, of course, you could also argue that but
that's an anecdote, though, sir, right? As far as the mass scale, every company is doing it. Every company is on the same.
We don't need that. Fuck other companies. We just have to care about your clients, your companies. Fuck the others. If there's retards there out in the market who do not want to change, let them die. But cease to perish, you know. But I think the right philosophy is to say, let's embrace what works, you know. And I sometimes wonder as well why people find it so hard. But Ian already gave the answer. There's so many beliefs that stand in the way of embracing what works, which is time orientation, which is decentralization, which is self-organization. The Agile shit, it's very hard to embrace if you have flawed assumptions about how work works, and our heads are and hearts are full of flawed assumptions, I can tell you. But we uncovered a few, right? For example, somebody mentioned, people have an innate desire. Somebody just said that's 10 minutes ago, I think. Managers have an innate desire to have forecast and prognosis and estimate and to have a view of the future. That's not right. They feel insecure by command and control system, and the only escape for the insecurity is to demand forecast, prognosis, estimation and shit, or fixed targets or incentives or other bummers, other command and control practices. All this forecasting and estimation nonsense is a problem brought upon agilists by themselves, by their sloppy ways of organizing, like sprints. Because once you say you have a sprint that takes 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, if we want to end in hell, of course, then managers will say, okay, I prefer some forecasting. That's too long. It's too distanced. But if you have single piece flow, every manager at Padge, for example, the owner can every day, he can see how many items are in realization and in conceptualization and how many items are on the list. All the lists, they now have 2. Yes. So transparency is only possible in time orientation, and then the need for estimation, prognosis, forecasting, sprint planning, budgeting, fixed targets, cost management, and other nonsense goes away.
Yeah, Niels, we have about 3-4 minutes left. So
yes, and I should thank you all for your patience with these things. How do we wrap this up? Lilian, another question?
What other questions? This has been great discussion, great.
And such lovely people. I expected a little bit of kind of resistance from agilists, but it doesn't seem like that.
I wanted to ask a question about is TOSD like a way of completing the plan, do, check, act cycle from Deming, like in 1 or 2 days? Is that kind of the spirit of it?
I'm a big Deming fan. I even edited a book like this, What Would Deming Do, myself, 2 years back. So I'm one of the biggest Deming fans. And here's the thing. In Deming's thinking, that cycle didn't play a big role. It wasn't very important to him. And we shouldn't find it too important either. That's my recommendation. Of course, work moves. Yes, thank you, Ryan, for showing the book. It's pink, so to speak. And so is TOSD about plan, do, check, act? Yes, every work is about plan, do, check, act in a way. But it is. I think it's not a solution to our riddle. It's an interesting question that you're asking, Roberto. But yeah, I think it doesn't help us explain, why we have to move away from capacity orientation and how and why we have to move to time orientation. I think it's not that helpful. Yeah.
Is the time restriction just to kind of just get out and do something? Like I've been working in IT for 20 years, and it's so much analysis paralysis, which we talk and we talk and we talk, and so spend so little time doing that we don't learn from that cycle. That's
most analysis is entirely superfluous, says Ernst Weichselbaum. And I give you another example to finish this up. Thank you for your patience, by the way. But to give you another example, it is assumed today that to implement an ERP system takes 18 months, 2 years, 5 years, or forever, right? It should take no more than 90 days to implement a new ERP system, regardless of the company's scale, regardless of the organization's size, age, or geographic spread. If we think time-oriented, we will think about how to solve the same thing in 90 days. Implement a new ERP system or logistical software or whatever it is. Everything can be time-boxed, So the power of the power of time orientation and of time boxing is very significant. By the way, that's one of the things that the Agile movement popularized, time boxing, the idea of time boxing. The sad thing is that we didn't actually do it with the right things, with the work. We didn't do it with the work. Yeah, but time orientation is super powerful. I can only recommend you also, Roberto. Thank you for the question. Read the papers if you like. This is more about industrial production. This is about software development. I also recommend Friday we will talk to a guy who wrote an important book about time and time orientation 25 years ago. So tune in if you would like to hear that. Alan Bludorn, Ryan who's here, Ryan Erickson, and I will interview this guy. Thank you for your patience. Do we just finish this off like this with an invitation? Ian, you have to join the TOSD team. Otherwise, you get the horse's head in your bed. Yes.
How do I do that?
I will make you an offer. I will make you an offer you cannot reject.
Make me one, please. We'll talk offline.
I hope also Dave and you all will join the movement, the TOSD movement. It's very nascent, so please recommend the stuff. Yeah, please talk to each other, talk to other people about TOSD, read the paper, invite other people to read so that they can know and they convince themselves. Thank you. Last
Thank
words?
you, Niels. Yeah, I'll upload the video to Agile Main and share it. And yeah, thank you for taking the time. This has been, great conversation. One of the best ones that we've had recently. So thank you all for joining and contributing. And yeah,
You are just the best host, Million, by the way. See you all again soon. Yes?
Thank you all. Have a great rest of the day. And yeah.
Thank you all. Great discussion.
Thank
you for joining. Stay in touch if you like, right? Get in touch.
Yeah. Everybody follow me
and
on
watch us
LinkedIn.
on Friday. We're Friday at 10 a.m.
When we talk to Alan C. Bluedorn about his book on time.
Is there a link? Is there a link somewhere?
Yes, there's a link.
As long as Million doesn't close the room, I can put the link in the chat.
I will click it as soon as you put it. I will also, I can send a follow-up and include that in the.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Or that.
This was lovely. Let's do this again soon, Million.
Yeah.
Thank you, Niels.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ian, for the idea. It's
yes, you made the suggestion. Very good. Very good. By the way, Ian, stay a moment. What do you do today? What do you make your living with? Are you selling supplies, as your background suggests?
Oh, yes. Right now I work for a company called WEX in Portland, Maine. And historically, I've essentially tried to help organizations transform, but I followed your work and many others. I'm a perpetual learner. And I've founded an organization myself called Viridian Guard I've incorporated beta codex-like ideas. It's aspects of it. Yep.
Okay.
So I don't know. I do lots of different things.
What's your official title? What?
Right now, it's Technology Strategy Advisor.
Ah, okay. So you could do TOSD at your company, maybe?
There's no way. But the mental models right now, I've been trying to overcome these mental models for a very long time.
But here's the thing. You can, as an internal source, so to speak, you cannot alone do that. That's one of the tough things I learned.
Yes.
You
get slammed into a corner if you try to do that too hard.
Exactly. So consultants are pretty much useless, but to overcome the flawed beliefs, you need somebody external to kind of do some truth sayings, let's say, say things that you might not be able or willing to say.
Yeah, there's the presupposition of that fear, right? If you, I will, right? You're essentially a slave, right? You're not free to. Yes, and what you're talking about is creating organizations where people are human again.
Yes.
And humans can do incredible things when they work together.
Yes.
And there's the assumption of scale. We need to have this massive amount of scale, all this whip, and that we need to do all these things simultaneously. We need managers to manage all that. All those things like are assumptions that you're putting to bed, which I love, and I think
we have another guest here for Beta Codex Live, Niels.
Yeah. Yes, we can have a conversation about this with it on our podcast. But also, I think people want to overcome their flawed assumptions, but there are not many people who help them. So to create the situation in which managers, executives, a sponsor of TOSD or a sponsor of beta transformation can make up their mind, that's the first trick.
The questions of incentive is interesting too, right? What are the actual incentives for people? Are they really the spoken incentives? Not usually. It's interesting. Well, I mean, these folks to change their orientation, right? What's in it for them? You kind of, I don't know. Ryan told me on the side that I'm alluding to Bob Emiliani's work, right?
Yes.
And so I think those are aspects of it, right? There's wisdom in there. We can talk about this separately too, but
Bob
potentially is relevant.
About Bob Emiliani, I have 20 books
He's got so many books.
Exactly. And sadly, around 50% of what he says is just wrong. And he thinks it's all right, and it's not. The guy is. I read all those books thinking, oh, he's right in there. This is brilliant, and then he doesn't know anything, but he assumes things and calls it science. You know, he has an opinion and calls it science. It's terrible. Ultimately, he's a dark lord, like Simon Sinek, for example. They are Sith. They are Sith. They are spreading false promises, false words, false beliefs. Yes, and but that doesn't mean that all his thinking is wrong. It's just that 50% are wrong, and you never know. You know, you always have to concentrate of figure it out. So don't follow Bob Emiliani. Bob Emiliani, I had the last exchange I had, the last forever, because he hates me now. Our last exchange was about his hopelessness. He's totally hopeless. All people in Lean are totally hopeless. The famous people, you know, Mr. Womack and so on, Emiliani, they are completely hopeless. They have no hope that a better future is possible. By the way, the same goes for, I recently had this interaction which ended badly with one of the signatories of the Agile Manifesto. He also believes that, he wrote to me something like, Niels, all this can be excellent, but nothing will change.
See, I'm hopeful as you are.
Exactly. But the thing is, we have to think about method. That's why what I replied to the guy, Alistair, his name. So you will never guess who it was.
Yeah, there's 7
Alistair.
Yeah.
I love Alistair. He's a great.
I loved him before I had this interaction with him, you know. But if you are hopeless, then you cannot do any good. You can only suck life. You know, you are become an energy vampire.
I like your message though about think for yourself. That's like I don't necessarily like I follow lots of different people to try to have juxtaposed perspective, right? But then I make, you know, so Bob's work is interesting perspective, I think, and some of it's useful to help make sense, right?
Totally.
And some of it potentially not. I haven't read all his books though, man. 25 something books. Like I don't, you know.
He probably hasn't read all his books.
Seriously, how am I going to read your books and his books and all the other books that I have? Like, there's no way.
And it's beautiful that he produces a book like that. Blah, 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 blah. You know, it's wonderful. But the thing is that ultimately, he doesn't look for solutions. This is a big problem I think, among the thought leaders in Agile too. They have no hope.
Yeah.
The only guy, the thought leader in Agile, who the first, one of the most significant, I think, is Daniel Mesick. He had hope. I'm not sure if he has hope yet, still, but he had hope. That's why he came up with open space agility, you know, because he believes that it must be possible. It must be possible.
I have respect for people. I believe people are good. I have a lot of hope. I think people are incredible, right?
And Toyota happened, you know, Pratke happened. I do transformation work with those clients, or companies like DM, a large company now here in Germany, or Handelsbanken, they transformed themselves. Even Toyota transformed themselves. So it is possible. There's no reason to be hopeless, but we have to question our tools, you know, our way of thinking, as you beautifully outlined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But thought leaders who are hopeless, they suck. They are useless. I want them to retire.
And I think that also it's important to say, not that they're hopeless. They lack hope. They
Oh yes, thank you. That's the right English way to put it. Sorry. Yes, they lack hope. Yes, and so ultimately, if you lack hope, you become a cynic.
No pun intended.
Cynic, maybe
you become a silent cynic as well.
No pun
Jürgen
intended.
Appelo, for example, he's like that as well. Sadly, that's
yeah.
He thinks I have some beef with him, but I don't have a beef. I
do like his work though. Jürgen is a smart guy.
He's super smart, but they are all smart. It's just that they lack hope. And then what do? You end up doing money, making money, doing hopeless things, entertaining yourselves and others, selling bad stuff.
Yeah, you focus back inward, the security, the scarcity mindset. Well, it's like this, so I just got to get for myself so that I can be secure and everybody, whatever, right? But that's a path of destruction, right? Like humanity, if we were ever to make it in this thing, continue on, we need to overcome that, you know.
By the way, that's one of the things I learned in America. I went to Philadelphia, and that's a city full of those historical artifacts about people who have hope of change, who dare to think against the existing system. I am a slaveholder, but I will fool myself into thinking that democracy will work, you know, for everyone, and we will write it down like that, you know. But I'm a slaveholder. That's fantastic. That's just, it's not being a slaveholder was fantastic, but
yeah, what happened to
us? The ability
man?
of thinking of overcoming the system. I think that's a beautiful thing that you can learn in America, or there are other historical places for that. Yeah. By the way, this kind of transformation thing is totally possible. I wonder why you guys aren't doing it in Maine already, because the idea was born in Maine. Not sure if you are aware.
I remember that. Yeah. Well, after the first conference that you guys, yeah.
Yes.
Daniel's down in Boston, is he not?
Connecticut.
Connecticut.
Guildford, Connecticut. Yes.
But I also like the idea. Remember when you guys talked about like change in terms of like coffee, putting milk in the coffee, and how quickly, that was a good analogy that you guys used.
Yes. Change is more like adding milk to coffee. It is not like a journey, for example. A journey is totally the wrong metaphor. Yeah. Change is not traveling. It's not making steps. It's more like adding milk to coffee. You pour something in it and the system changes and you have something entirely different. Yeah. And it's irreversible in a way.
It's interesting though. These things go really deep, right? Like when I think about, like, I'm a father and I worry a lot about my children in the future, what they're going to inherit. And there's so many fundamental belief systems that it's just, there's so many layers, right? Like there's this idea that like economics is a totally made up thing, right? So there's this idea that like there's this fun, and that we're so fixated on the current economic model, capitalism, being like a natural evolution, but it's not. You know what I mean? It's like, so there's all these layers of beliefs, but ultimately, for us humans to thrive, we're going to have to overcome. That's the work, right? Overcoming these limited, what I would call limiting beliefs.
Yes.
So I'm very hopeful. And I want to do the work because I'm very concerned. As you alluded to, it's tough work. People are very resistant to deeply held beliefs, right? Things that they perceive as facts. It's interesting.
Which is why we have to trick them into learning. We have to create that's the role. That's why, for example, Silke and I, we developed this learning platform, Comenius, to help people think through.
Oh, is that what that is?
In practice themselves, yes, and it's scalable. So it's a learning platform that allows small groups like us now to discuss things for 90 minutes, but guided by content and didactics, virtually or in the room, and to overcome their own limited barriers of thinking, let's say, just by themselves, just by talking to each other, So because we thought about this difficulty, how to scale this, how to scale the kind of discussion we had tonight to today to 1,000, 10,000, 20,000 people. How to make TOSD happen in 4 weeks if you have 10,000 developers? That's the kind of question we ask ourselves. And the solution, of course, is to create learning that's not, it's not like training. You don't need a workshop facilitator. You need no facilitator at all. It's the time that facilitates the process, actually, interestingly. Everything I've done in the last 10 or 15 years led me to understand time orientation better this year. So in Comenius learning, every learning session takes exactly 90 minutes, and the system controls the time. So you move on from topic to topic, conversation to conversation, interaction to interaction, guided by time. It's very interesting, really.
It was the birth of TTEO, you think?
Yes. All these things are deeply interconnected. It's worth reading about time, by the way. I recommend reading books about.
I was going to ask you about Weisselbaum's work. Do you have any works that you would recommend, like capstones, like something that if you read it, you would get the gist of?
Yes, I think this is the starting point. The 2 papers.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, because the book by Ernst Weichselbaum is available only in German, and I can tell you now, next year there will be a book like this. What would Ernst Weichselbaum do? But this is a secret. Don't tell anyone. Nobody knows yet, but yeah, there will be. But there's a lot of Ernst Weichselbaum. There are quotes in these papers, and all these concepts, they are distilled from his work. So like the distinction between capacity orientation and time orientation, it's Ernst Weichselbaum core work. So yeah, you will find it in my stuff. These things. Yeah, he's a brilliant thinker. Sadly, the book wasn't translated yet. Yes,
guys, I gotta run. I can either leave you to discuss things, or I can close it up. I gotta go pick up my son.
I suggest we close it up. Ian, we have to talk. Yes?
Yeah.
If you like.
Great session.
Yeah.
Yes, it was lovely. Thank you for the lovely conversation.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Niels. And let's stay in touch.
It was good as always.
Thank you.